Well, welcome back to Main Stage 1 and to our final session for today, Hearing from the Hill, where we'll hear remarks from a number of leaders at the federal, state, and local level who are championing our collective work on a bipartisan, really a nonpartisan basis across the country. We're honored to be joined in just a moment live by Commissioner Nikki Freed. Commissioner Freed serves as Florida's 12th Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services and is a lifelong Floridian, attorney, and passionate activist. Commissioner Freed is currently working to address the mental health and isolation of Florida's farmers by launching a comprehensive outreach campaign to raise awareness about mental health and promote existing and expanded services to farmer and rural communities across the state of Florida. Following Commissioner Freed, we'll hear from Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, a Democrat from California, Congressman John Curtis, a Republican from Utah, and Mayors Ron Nirenberg from Texas and Mayor Brandon Scott from Maryland. Commissioner Freed and these leaders are paving the way across the country for policies that promote a more socially connected nation. So first, Commissioner Freed, we're thrilled to have you join us today, and we also very much appreciate your time given your extraordinary efforts to support the thousands of Floridians impacted by the recent Hurricane Ian. Our hearts go out to you and your constituents and the people of Florida. So we're grateful and we welcome you to the Action Forum. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having us and having the department be part of this. And good afternoon, everybody. And it's truly such an honor to be part of this very important conversation. As you just heard, my name is Nikki Freed. I am Florida's 12th Commissioner of Agriculture. I'm honored to have the chance to share with you all some of the information about my department's Farmer Stress Awareness Initiative. Food is something that connects all of us. We power up for the day with a balanced breakfast. We catch up with friends and coworkers over lunch, and we share the ups and downs of our day with our families over the dinner table. But people don't always think about the tireless work by farmers, ranchers, and farm workers that make those nourishing meals and social opportunities possible. Our agriculture workers have a lot stacked against them. They have huge responsibilities of feeding our country while combating obstacles like supply chain issues, unfair foreign trade practices, invasive pests, and unpredictable weather. Those stressors combined with a lack of resources have created a mental health crisis across the agriculture community. As Florida's Commissioner of Agriculture, it was important to me to create this resource campaign to reach those farmers and producers who feel isolated and unable to access care. It was a goal of mine when planning out this initiative to have strong community partners to address this crisis on multiple fronts. Because we are all in this together. As a society, as neighbors and community members, it is on all of us to help those who work so hard to feed us every day to feel connected to their community and empowered to access the mental health resources that they need. We were fortunate to team up with the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences to train public school agriculture teachers, 4-H, and Future Farmers of America members, and others to organize the signs of farm stress in their communities and families. This is critical because it teaches community members what behaviors to look for to know in their friend, in their loved ones, or neighbors if they are experiencing poor mental health, and encourages participants to look out for one another. The other goal of our Farmer Stress Awareness Initiative is to raise awarenesses from existing mental health resources here in the state of Florida, like our partner at the 211, who provide vital information, referral, and crisis intervention services. That's why my department's Division of Marketing and Development created videos, radio ads, and print ads to do just that. Those ads are currently being aired and shared in markets throughout the state. I want those in our agriculture communities to know they are not alone. There are resources to give you the help that you need. They are just a call away. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak with you here today about the importance of this initiative in combating social isolation amongst our rural and agriculture communities. Now, I'd like to invite you to join for a screening of our outreach video that is airing across our state as part of this critical awareness campaign.
What keeps me awake at night is thinking of ways to provide access to nutritious foods where it's convenient for the community to get them.
One of the biggest things that keep me up at night, I think, would be not knowing what would happen after a natural disaster.
One is the insects that we're having come into the country. And the other thing is to find qualified employees.
Our input costs are going up at a tremendous rate right now. The inputs this year were up about 30% cost increase over last year. That's a major concern.
Farming is a very stressful job, and it's one of the reasons I think it's most stressful is because a lot of it is out of your control. You can't control the weather, you can't control commodity prices, labor shortages, a pandemic of all things. So those are the kind of things that, just like you say, compound the issues of stress. Stress can manifest as from a physician's point of view, and obviously it's through physical manifestations. What I mean by that, they can have hypertension, pain, chronic pain, those kind of symptoms that you see that if you don't know the person's history, you may not recognize that as being stress. You may see a decrease in activity, there's depression. They're not interested in doing what they normally do. Their farm doesn't look the same. They don't show up to church like they usually do. Those kind of things you can kind of identify as being some sort of stress related.
We are proud of the fact that Florida's farmers put food on families' tables across the country and the world. But the stresses of working every day, sun up to sundown, can be physically and emotionally demanding. While farm life may foster a culture of self-reliance, difficulties have been increasing, which means we must work together to take better care of each other. There's no need to face these challenges alone. In fact, 50% of farmers and farm workers say it's difficult to access therapy or counseling in their community. Additionally, nearly 9 in 10 farmers cite financial issues, farm business issues, and fear of losing their farms as mental health stressors. So, if you're struggling, know you are not the only one, and you are not alone.
What's important to me in life is ensuring that those before us that planted and grew food so we can eat, that we do the same for those that will come after us.
The health and well-being of not only the people that we're feeding, but also the plant and the environments that we're maintaining as well.
So obviously my family, and apart from my immediate family, also my work family, both are integral parts of our daily life.
The most important thing for me in life is family. It always has been and always will be. I mean, family comes first, and that's everything else is secondary.
The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services has partnered with 211 to create a 24-hour multilingual helpline available to farm and agricultural workers who are feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or depressed and need someone to talk to. Contacting 211 will connect you with a caring representative who will direct you to resources in your local community. Calls are confidential and can be anonymous. Concerned family members are also welcome to call for support and resources. You don't have to take it upon yourself to deal with stress. Call 211 or text FARM-FL to 898-211 and talk to someone who will listen and give you the resources you need to get through tough times.
You are not alone.
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 Hi everyone, I'm Congresswoman Linda Sanchez from Southern California. First, I'd like to thank the Coalition to End Social Isolation and Loneliness and the Foundation for Social Connection for hosting this forum. And I want to recognize all of you for your hard work and continued engagement on this very important issue. As you know, social isolation and loneliness represent a persistent problem for millions of Americans. This is true for people of all ages, but it's especially true for our seniors. We will all grow old. And when that inevitably happens, each and every one of us deserves to be surrounded by friends, family, and loved ones. In Congress, I'm focused on passing legislation that will provide our seniors with the resources and support that they need. That's why I introduced the Addressing Social Isolation and Loneliness in Older Adults Act, or Addressing SILO Act for short. Many folks lack access to social support, and we know that that can lead to poor physical and mental health and higher healthcare costs overall. One of the best ways we can prevent this is by funding efforts that connect older adults with local programs and resources. We also need to conduct outreach, especially to those at increased risk for social isolation and loneliness, so that we can better meet their needs. And we need to establish a continuum of care to connect older adults to the social and clinical support they need. That's exactly what the Addressing Silo Act does. As members of Congress, it is also important that we fund local projects to decrease isolation in the neighborhoods we represent. This past year in Southern California, I was proud to secure funding for several projects that would expand public transportation access and revitalize parks and open spaces in my district. Funding for these projects will help our seniors and residents of all ages avoid isolation, stay connected, and enjoy some of the great weather sunny Southern California has to offer. As a daughter who had to make the difficult decision to put my mom in full-time care, this issue is personal for me. My parents sacrificed so much to give me and my siblings a good life. I want to make sure that they have the same in their retirement. And I know many of you here today have experienced this too. We need to keep raising awareness and finding new and innovative ways to solve this pressing issue. I encourage you to call on your elected officials at all levels of government and urge them to pass legislation that will have a real impact on you and your family. Together, we will put an end to social isolation and loneliness. Thank you again to the Coalition and to all of you for your advocacy. Keep up the great work, and God bless you.
Hi, I'm Congressman John Curtis. The COVID-19 pandemic caused millions of Americans to seek treatment for anxiety, depression, and substance use disorder. According to a recent survey conducted by the American Psychological Association, practitioners treating anxiety disorders reported seeing an uptick in demand for their services by 10% year over year between 2020 and 2021, while those treating depression saw a 12% increase in demand for services over the same time period. Communities facing high rates of addiction have also seen tragic increases in overdoses during the pandemic. In Utah, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency seized more than 300 pounds of meth in 2020 alone, with overdoses associated with the drug accounting for 40% of all drug overdoses during 2020. I've heard from many of you about how drug abuse and fentanyl has directly impacted you and your families. The stories are heartbreaking. Because of this, I introduced the Helping Enables Access to Life-Saving Services, or HEALS Act, legislation that funds federal grant programs to bolster the nation's behavioral health care workforce. The legislation specifically provides funding for institutions of higher education and nonprofit organizations focusing on behavioral health care training in areas of high need. I've also introduced bipartisan legislation which is duplicative of Utah state laws that help reduce the risk of gun suicides at home. I deeply regret that many feel the only way out of a difficult situation is to take their own life. It takes incredible courage by those experiencing a mental health emergency to recognize the danger they pose to themselves, particularly if they have access to a firearm during this time. Utah has a successful law in the books to allow individuals to voluntarily and temporarily surrender firearms during difficult times. I believe this same program could help those in other states as well. The odds of preventing suicide at home significantly improve when we provide resources that allow an individual to surrender whatever they would use to threaten themselves while they're at their most vulnerable. Helping individuals overcome loneliness, depression, and suicidal tendencies isn't an easy task. As Americans, we should improve social connectedness in our neighborhoods, work, and academic communities, and our homes. Thank you.
Hello everybody. We've been through a lot in the past few years, but even before that, evidence showed us that loneliness and mental health challenges have a unique connection. Studies show that lonely people struggle with a range of issues like stress, anxiety, and depression, all of which impact a person's mental health. Here in Baltimore, we launched a Here to Help line to connect residents of all ages with mental and behavioral health resources. At some point, we have all experienced feeling lonely, isolated, and hopeless, but it's good to know that help is just a call away. Special thanks to organizations like Foundation for Social Connection, the Coalition to End Social Isolation and Loneliness, the annual End Social Isolation and Loneliness Action Forum for creating spaces in our communities for residents to get the help they need. And if you live in Baltimore and are struggling with anxiety, depression, or loneliness, know that you are not alone. Dial 988 to get connected with one of our amazing counselors. And if you or someone you love are experiencing suicidal thoughts and ideations, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline right now at 1-800-273-8255.
Bienvenidos from San Antonio, Texas. I'm Ron Nirenberg. I serve as mayor of this beautiful, compassionate city. I want to thank the U.S. Surgeon General's office, along with the Foundation for Social Connection and the Coalition to End Social Isolation and Loneliness, for inviting me to discuss San Antonio with you today. When reading about this forum, I noticed the diversity from the national organizations involved, consumer groups and technology innovators, healthcare providers and patient advocacy organizations, mental and behavioral health advocates. This action forum reflects what it takes to overcome isolation and loneliness, all of us working together. Community working together to heal and nurture community. Compassion via community is what overcomes the collective traumas in our current societal contexts. Isolation and loneliness are but the outer layers of so many other layers that are deep within. It's difficult to see this dynamic because these outer layers are so inward focused. There is hope though. Lots of it, because we are talking about community. We're not doing this alone or on a whim or based on some well-intentioned good idea. Let's just call it what it is: informed hope. Neuroscience has been revealing to us for some time now what ancient wisdom has told us for much longer. Human DNA contains compassion. There's hope. Our bodies are like biocomputers. Our neural pathways can be strengthened and rerouted thanks to neurogenesis. No matter how old we are, I know that gives me hope. Human symptoms speak to us and point us to where we head. Numb indifference, reactive polarization. No examples needed, right? In like mapping, we know where to go. Informed hope tells us many things. Here's a very important one. Our community efforts result in exponential healing. When we gather together, when we work together, we are mega biocomputers. Current research tells us that the reason humans are around is not because of survival of the fittest. It's because of cooperation and collaboration. It's because of compassion in our DNA. Why am I telling you all this? Well, in San Antonio, we live in and work out of informed hope. I wanted to tell you what that was first for you to more directly understand as I describe what we're doing in our city. The first City Council resolution that I signed as mayor was in 2017. Along with more than 100 other cities globally at the time, we became officially Compassionate San Antonio. I'm glad we signed that into action in 2017 as it helped us say yes to the migrant influx of 2019. It was simply the right thing to do. It was the compassionate thing to say, welcome. That continued right up and through the pandemic. Not that we welcomed COVID, but we knew that collaboration synced with compassion and community was and is our only route. Informed hope guides our policies. That then becomes our reality. I'm proud and happy to say that the list of all the efforts and innovations happening in San Antonio is long. I'm not going to say that all of these are necessarily unique. What I can say is these efforts are robust and plentiful. In August, San Antonio hosted the 7th annual Pathways to Hope Mental Wellness Conference. Its intentional focus was to dissolve the stigma while forming collaboration between the faith community, civic leaders, healthcare professionals, peers, and more. Free and open to the public, it is now a national model and was streamed this year to 18 other U.S. cities. Ready to Work, an unprecedented workforce initiative approved by San Antonio voters in 2020, began enrollment earlier this year for residents seeking access to professional training, education, and quality high-paying careers. The list of synergetic community gatherings has become the new collectible in our city. Lower the Stress Bingo, storytelling gatherings and projects, neighborhood night out all year long and not just one night. Websites have been created to open portals into multiple story projects and creative gatherings of San Antonians. All are intentionally created as replicable so that other cities can pick up on the platforms. Cohorts of congregational, business, healthcare, and school collaboratives formed in geographical proximity to meet the needs of residents where they live and to recreate community almost door to door. Currently, there are 20 cohorts in and across all 10 of our City Council districts. The goal is to have 10 cohorts in each of the 10 districts. I would be remiss not to mention our SHIP, the Strategic Housing Implementation Plan. Everyone is collaborating on this effort: civic leaders and contractors, community organizations and congregations, tech gurus and grassroots. Lack of housing and the state of housing can be a major contributor to isolation. You name it, we're looking at it and doing it. Refits and restorations, tiny homes and 3D printed ones in less than a day. Available acreage and unused facilities on congregational properties. Affordable, accessible, available. There's so much more to share: mobile mental health clinics, a PD community engagement unit, wraparound community welcome for those who have migrated and wish to make our city their home, to name a few. Thank you for this opportunity. I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from sojourners in DC. Hope is believing in spite of the evidence and then watching the evidence change. Thanks again. Adios.
Wow. Well, thank you to our leaders and local officials for championing this critically important issue and for their ongoing commitment to creating a more socially connected nation. I'm just really blown away by those remarks from federal, state, and local leaders across the country. And that's just a sampling of those that have really stood by and have taken on this issue at the national, state, and local level. Thank you so much. Well, look, we had a fantastic program today. We heard from federal leaders and advocates, global colleagues, and our many partners highlighting the importance of national awareness and advocacy to make sure we have a more socially connected society. Each year at the Action Forum, as you all know, we commit to action. These are pledges made not only by us, but by our partners and friends from around the country and around the world to create momentum that will truly affect change. So this year, as the founder and board chair of the Coalition to End Social Isolation and Loneliness and the vice chair of the Foundation for Social Connection, I commit to the following on behalf of our organizations. Number one, we commit to developing a consensus-based, evidence-informed public policy agenda for 2023, led by the Coalition's Public Policy Committee. The Policy Committee has been judiciously iterating on what policy approaches and actions are needed to create and support a more socially connected community and society and nation. Number two, we commit that the 2023 public policy agenda will reflect the policy recommendations that came out of the social framework developed in partnership with our Scientific Advisory Council at the Foundation for Social Connection and the network of stakeholder leaders that participate there. Finally, we commit to working with Congress on a bipartisan basis to introduce groundbreaking legislation on social isolation, loneliness, and social connection in the 118th Congress, beginning in January 2023. This legislation will include innovative, common sense solutions that are actionable, practical, and inclusive and are steeped in research. While today we focused on policy, tomorrow we're going to turn to practice. We'll hear from leading researchers, pioneers developing new solutions in the tech sector, those focused on youth and also on older adults, and much more. So join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern for another exciting, packed agenda. If you pre-registered for day one of Big Talk with Kalina Silverman, you should see that option appear when you navigate to the Sessions tab on the left side of your window. If you weren't able to get to the spot at this time around, stay tuned for future Big Talk opportunities. I want to also emphasize that this event was made possible in part by our generous sponsors. Triple S Foundation, a not-for-profit organization established in 2017 in Puerto Rico to extend the community outreach efforts made by Triple S. Its efforts are aligned to SSS's vision of treating the individual in a comprehensive manner and addressing the social factors that affect the health of Puerto Ricans, particularly on food insecurity and emotional well-being. In March of 2022, SSS Foundation launched an initiative to address social isolation and loneliness in Puerto Rico with a long-term strategy that focuses on research, awareness, and community projects. We also would like to recognize Social Health Labs, whose contribution in part made the inaugural Marcia Slater Johnson Award grant possible. Social Health Labs addresses the loneliness epidemic by making social health a priority in our society. So thank you again for joining us today, and we'll see you all back here tomorrow for day 2 of the 2022 End Social Isolation and Loneliness Action Forum. Thank you so much and have a great day.